Hanh, Deputy Country Representative for GGGI Vietnam. Vietnam usually isn't front of people's minds when there's discussion of green finance and green bonds. Can you give us a little bit of a view of what's happening?
Yeah, no, you're right. So Vietnam is hugely vulnerable to climate change. There is a huge need for climate finance, green finance to support Vietnam towards green growth. And for that reason, GGGI is working very closely with Vietnamese government. We provide policy advice to the government with the aim to mostly removing market barriers. So then there'll be more green finance, especially from the private sector, to support green projects to materialize in Vietnam. On top of that, we also working very closely with the private sector, with the developers, with financiers, domestically as well as internationally, to bring more bankable projects, bankable green projects into the market. So it is a challenge still, and that's why we're there to support Vietnam towards this transition.
And looking ahead into 2019, 2020 a little bit further, what do you think of the prospects for the first, second or third green bonds out of Vietnam into the international market?
New green financial instruments is of hugely interest to the Vietnamese government. So in that regard, the Green Growth Action Plan for the financial sector actually assigned the task to Ministry of Finance to develop green bond market for Vietnam. And in fact, recently, like last year, there were two legal instruments to support or enable the issuance of green bond for both corporate and government. That said, there's still a lot needs to be done, and so in that way, we are supporting the Ministry of Finance as well as the private sector to look into some pilot issuance by both corporate as well as government bond to actually enhance that green finance from private sector and tapping into the private capital market for green growth.
And now you've been here at the Climate Bonds Conference for a day and a half. What's your feeling, what's your impressions, and what would be your message for the people back home?
The conference has been hugely helpful for not only me but also other delegates from Vietnam to meet other stakeholders in the green bond community, in the international green bond community, to learn of what else has been happening, the best practices, the challenges that people have faced in issuing green bonds, and to bring that back in developing the new regulatory framework or the updated regulatory framework, as well as actually now that we look into pilot issuance of green bonds, of sort of the practical steps of how to do it, and sort of knowing the lessons learned in advance so we can save ourselves a little bit of time and mistakes. So that has been really, really helpful. And so thank you again to the organizer in having us.
Hanh, Deputy Country Representative for the Global Green Growth Institute, looking after Vietnam. Thank you for speaking to us at the Climate Bonds Annual Conference.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.